Welcome to causation versus correlation. Uh, so, this is my big warning for this portion of statistics: causation versus correlation. Um, when we are looking at scatter plots and describing the strength of a relationship and the direction of a relationship, we are just noting that a pattern exists. So when we look at scatter plots, and study form, strength, and direction, we are just noticing or observing that a pattern exists. We are not claiming or proving that the explanatory variable is a direct cause of the response variable, or that a change in the explanatory variable will cause a change in the response variable. So we are noticing a pattern exists, but we are not claiming any form of causation. So for kind of a silly example, this I believe is also in your textbook. Let's say that we study elementary school students. And let's say that we consider their reading level and their fine motor skills, right? Their ability to manipulate things with their hands, essentially. So consider their reading level and their fine motor skills. Now, I'm going to claim that there is a relatively strong positive relationship or positive pattern, a positive and strong linear pattern connecting these two variables. So there is a strong positive linear, if we put the scales rated on a number system, relationship between the variables. Right? So then some people might say, oh, well, if we work to improve a student's reading level, their fine motor skills will improve. So the question is, if we work to improve our students' reading level, should we expect their fine motor skills to improve? So if we think about this in terms of the fact that there's a strong positive linear relationship, we could consider that the scatter plot, if we put reading down here and fine motor skills on the side, then a strong positive linear relationship, the scatter plot might look something like this. Right? And so somebody might think, well, if we shift them horizontally, the points also appear to be higher, so it would go up. However, we are not claiming causation. So the answer to this question is essentially not necessarily, and probably just no in general. So probably not. The reason behind this, well, we are talking about all elementary school students. So odds are, if we are talking about elementary school students, that the kindergartners will have poor reading level and also have fairly poor fine motor skills. If we look at the third graders, it's probably better reading level and better fine motor skills. And if we look at the fifth graders, even better reading level and even better fine motor skills. So what is probably going on is that these points at the bottom are most likely our kindergartners. And the points up the top are most likely our fifth graders. So it's not so much that reading level is what is causing the fine motor skills, it's probably that age is in the background influencing both of these. So it's more likely that age is in the background, causing the pattern to appear. Now, the reason this is one of my major warnings, causation versus correlation, is that this is a aspect of statistics that gets used incorrectly and can have major consequences if people don't understand the difference between causation and correlation. So misunderstanding or not misunderstanding correlation as causation can have serious consequences. And one of the ways this can have consequences is in policy in government. So I don't know, somewhere like 10 or 15 years ago now, um, the state made a um, decision that they wanted all middle schoolers to have algebra by the time they graduate middle school. And the reason behind this is that they saw um, that students that had taken algebra in high school were more likely to be successful in college. And so they decided we should push to have all students take algebra before they graduate middle school, and therefore they will be more successful in college. So again, the example I have is that it was observed that students who took algebra in middle school were more likely to succeed in college. So then the policy response was to essentially almost force students to take algebra in middle school. Right? So highly encourage schools to put students in algebra by or in 8th grade. Well, what the people making these decisions forgot about is that there are probably other things that were influencing that success in college. So some background complications, some background influencers, what we often call lurking variables, might be that students who were taking algebra in 8th grade just on automatically without the school pushing them into it probably had better study skills to start off with. So students already in algebra in 8th grade probably had better study skills. Right? Those better study skills probably influenced their being in algebra, and they also set them up to be successful in college. Something else that might be in the background, parents' education. If you have parents that are comfortable with algebra and can help their students with algebra, help their students with math, they're more likely to be in algebra by 8th grade. They are also probably more likely to succeed in college just from having that continued support through school. Having parents at home to help, right? So parents, free time to help with as their students or as their children are studying. And one last thing, there's plenty of others, right? Money for, say, tutors for all sorts of things. All of these things, study skills, parents, education, parents' free time to help their students or their children with their homework, money available for tutors. These are all things that were likely to influence students being ready to start algebra in middle school, as well as influence their success in college. So it's more likely that these things in the background are what were actually causing the pattern instead of just, oh, if you take algebra in eighth grade, if I put you in algebra in eighth grade, you will be ready to succeed in college. So if policy doesn't recognize the things in the background that caused the pattern, then just making a sudden change in policy can have consequences. So it's just important to pay attention to if a relation, when we're studying these relationships, we're just noticing that a pattern exists, not that there is a causal relationship.